1500 Highway 2, Sandpoint, Idaho. We are streaming online via Zoom and YouTube. Is there anyone in attendance in need of special assistance to see, hear, or participate in these proceedings? Okay, please take note of the hearing procedure on the screens. I will submit my written decision within 5 days of this hearing, 5 business days, excuse me, of this hearing. And then at this time, I'd like to lead the room in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My cheerleader pose. My entire life. Okay, are there any changes to the agenda?
No,
Oh, okay. Any announcements?
not at this time.
Any corrections to the January 18th, 2023 hearing meetings?
No, the minutes.
The minutes, sorry, I said meeting, didn't I? Minutes.
I should say for one announcement that last week the Board of County Commissioners decided to discontinue Zoom as a participation option for public hearings and meetings going forward. All of the planning hearings that had been advertised as open to Zoom for comments are going to proceed, so that'll go through the end of February.
Okay.
Those first meetings in March, we're now advertising as not open to Zoom. We encourage folks to provide written comments and show up in person or provide testimony.
Okay, so no longer, starting in March, though, not to say that anymore.
March 7th will be the first one.
So because we had already advertising as such, we're going to keep that, so we don't have to push it again back.
Okay,
But in the March, we will swap
okay.
unless it gets changed again.
Okay, so then if there's no changes to January 18th hearing minutes, I approve those. Okay, so today we are hearing 2 files. The first one being MOD 0005-22 modification to the CUP 0002-20. The applicants are requesting a modification to CUP 0002-20 to add additional multifamily units. The site is 4.45 acres. The property is zoned rural service center. The project is located off Highway 57 in section 25, Township 60 North, Range 5 West, Boise Meridian. Oh, and I have no conflict of interest, sorry. Now it's yours.
Good afternoon, hearing examiner Daniel Britt, planning staff for the record. We're here to discuss modification 0005-22 for multifamily dwelling. These are the standards that were applied to this modification as found in the staff report. The applicants are requesting a modification of a conditional use permit of CUP 0002-20 to update a design of 2 permitted 4plexes to 1 8plex and to add 1 additional 8plex and 2 additional 4plexes to the property. Currently, as the site stands today, it is an unplatted parcel. It is approximately 3.36 acres. It's in the process of going through a minor land division. So when this modification was reviewed, it was reviewed against the 2.79 acres that are proposed, that are forthcoming for the project to sit on. So that's why there's a difference in the 2 numbers. In the staff report as well, I believe it says 4.45. That was an error based on our GIS system, just for the record. So we've got a little bit of clarity. I hope. If that's not clear, then please let me know. I'll try to clarify it a little more. It is currently zoned rural residential service center. Land use designation is neighborhood commercial. The property is access off of Highway 57, which is a state-owned and maintained 150-foot paved right-of-way up in the Priest Lake area. So the site does not contain any map slopes. It has possibly a map slope wetland running through the northwest side right here through the corner. but that's even questionable itself with our mapping system. It does not contain any waterfront either, and is within special flood hazard zone D. Water service is provided by Priest Lake Golf Course, Estates Water Association, and sewage is through Outlet Bay Water and Sewer District. Fire protection is afforded through West Priest Lake Fire District, Powers Northern Lights Incorporated, and it was within West Ponderay School District 83. So this is the 2.79 acres I was referring to moments ago, highlighted here in green, where the 2 8-plexes and the 2 4-plexes will be developed. So currently within the Rural Service Center, based on BCRC 12-332, our residential use table, multifamily dwellings are allowed with a conditional use permit. They have proposed a total of 121,000 square feet approximately in structures. And sorry, I apologize. They proposed 48,000 square feet of structures where they're required to have 121,000 square feet, which makes up the 2.79. So they do have the space to accommodate for the buildings they're asking for. Part 2 of this is the original conditional use permit back in 2020. They were supposed to build 2 4-plexes and change directions and did 1 8-plex. So they're here to correct that as well. This is the proposed new 8-plex that's going to be built. They are asking for a deviation from the dimensional standards found in BCRC 12-4.1. They're requesting a 3.4 3 feet 4 inch setback approximately here from a proposed road that will be forthcoming, where a setback as the roads develop would have been 5 foot. So there's a deviation that they're requesting there. And this is just an exploded view of that setback. The parking standards, they are meeting the parking standards. The challenge with this is currently, I'm going to go back a couple of slides. On this lot 1, there's a restaurant that sits there that's required to have parking. Once they divide those properties up, this parking essentially goes away because that becomes a new property line. They have ample parking for the residential units through a parking agreement that's been recorded as per code. They can use the parking that will be found on lot 2 for the purposes of the restaurant that's found on lot 1. So they can accommodate parking for the 8-plex, the 4-plex, as well as the restaurant. There's not really any anticipation that the parking lot will be full to where they wouldn't be able to provide parking for the restaurant and also the residential units. And moving forward, if they were to sell the properties or do anything differently, there's a recorded agreement in place that's enforceable. So that's another deviation that they're requesting this afternoon. They're requesting a deviation to the setback standards for signs as well. Signs are considered structures in Bonner County per Title 11, 11-219. They would be required to meet the setback of 25 feet on Highway 57 here, and then the future road here. They're requesting a 5-foot setback instead of the 25 feet as required by code. But they do plan on meeting the sign standards when they build the sign. So there's not a deviation from that or a request for deviation. Another deviation that they're requesting this afternoon is the size of the building. So per our design standards, maximum width of a building can only be 120 feet on a street front or adjacent to a parking area. The proposed structure is 170 feet long. A way to minimize the visual facade of this building is they propose some windows, landscaping, a fence around it, so breaks up the scale of the building itself. We're only talking about 50 feet here. These are the agencies that were routed for comment. Idaho Department of Transportation, DEQ submitted comments. Panhandle Health responded with no comment, and we did not hear back from the other agencies. No public comments were received as of February 14th for this proposal. Findings of fact and the conclusions of law have not changed since the time staff report was prepared. Staff finds that this proposal is consistent with the Bonner County Revised Code. I can take any questions. Okay.
You ready to let me, for the applicants go up or?
If you don't have any questions, I'm just pulling up their presentation.
Okay, cool. Okay, so then at this time, if the applicant would like to make a presentation. And then just make sure you state your name into the microphone, please. There should be some Jeopardy music or something going on.
Yeah, I don't know why they have to put so many clicks to get there. It's all new. You can use the mouse, you can use just for that.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Kevin Kazel. I'm a civil engineer with James A. Sewell and Associates and representing the developer here. Thank you, Ms. Examiner and staff for hearing us today. And I'll try to, I guess I can be a little more brief because Daniel did such a good job of telling us what this is all about. I have a short presentation on what the goal for this project is and what we're asking for. And I'll just try to kind of buzz through that. I can figure out how to make it work. Okay, project vicinity. I think we already got kind of figured out where we're at. We're at Priest Lake. We're on the west side of Priest Lake along the Highway 57 corridor. This is kind of the commercial area of the lake, and we're at Millie's Restaurant, which has been there for probably as long as anything else in the area. So we're talking about just a little bit of development right there. And today I want to kind of go over maybe a little bit bigger project. We're talking about the kind of a phase one idea too, and there's another phase coming right behind us, and I got a couple slides to show you what the bigger picture is. But our intent is really kind of going after the exact same idea, and this idea is to provide housing for the folks that work in those service areas up there, because it just isn't available. So adjacent, I guess I'll use one of these other things. Kind of hard to look right behind me. So within this area next to Millie's across the street, we have commercial uses. We have the Priest Lake Power Sports, the Priest Lake Little Store, the Priest Lake Property Shop, espresso stand, service center, and a brewery. So we're not really talking about any type of uses that are inconsistent with everything that's around. But we are trying to address an issue that all those businesses have, and that's the fact that the folks that work there are just it's tough to find a place to live. And the places that are available on the golf court and the resorts are probably not not affordable. And so that's really the goal of this project and the future phase that's coming is try to tackle that problem and address that. The project proponent today here, Todd Burke, is here. He's one of the owners. And so the official name of the entity is Millie's 1943 Jess Burke LLC. That's the owners of the restaurant and the multifamily lot that we're talking about. I touched on this just briefly, and so really our goal is two phases with this project. The first is obviously to request approval to build additional multifamily units, and then the second idea of this project was to take the bigger lot and split it into two lots. And in that way, we can take and put like use restaurant by itself, and then the multifamily units all on their own lot themselves as well. And so those were the two goals of the project. In terms of the status of the multifamily MLD process, we've kind of gone through and submitted to the planning department our minor land division application. That's came back. We've made those revisions, and now we've got things on Mylar, and we're kind of circling around right now, getting signatures and getting ready to. So we're right at the end of that process. So this is a map of kind of what the overall parcel looks like, a survey map. I know you probably can't read that, but the things I wanted to point out here were we have a bigger lot between the restaurant and the golf course, and that's about 40 acres. That's kind of our second phase that's going to be coming. Right now, we're kind of working in the shaded area down in the bottom right-hand corner there. And the shaded area, you can kind of see there's our overall lot, and there's a little boundary inside. The little boundary inside is lot 1, and that's the lot that contains the restaurant. And the really irregular shape around the outside, and I got a little better picture here, is the lot that contains all the multifamily units. Within the survey map and the plat, we have shown the easement on here for parking. And so not only is there a recorded easement with the county, but I've also shown it on what's going to get recorded with the survey maps, that there's a parking lot area and easement to handle that. So this is our overall site plan. Down on the bottom left, we have the restaurant, the parking lot, and then the unit that's there that was constructed as part of the original conditional use permit is located as called Unit A, and it's kind of, I don't know if my pointer works. Well, no, that's okay. So really, we have an eight unit building here, an 8-unit building here, which is existing, and then a 4-unit building here and a 4-unit building there. So 3 of those 4 are proposed, and I'll just kind of show you a further picture. This was images of the site in 2019 over on the left. We just had the restaurant, and then the 2022 image, you can see the 8-plex that's already been built. And adjacent to that is some temporary employee housing where our improvements are going to be located, as we've got a new 8-plex going in this area, a 4-plex here, and a 4-plex up there. I talked a little bit about a future phase. And so this is a preliminary layout and a lot study for the 40 acres that's adjacent to the project we're currently talking about. So the project we're currently talking about is down here in this lower left corner. This future phase is trying to tackle the exact same issues we're talking about today. Additional multifamily units. This is going to be proposed as a PUD. We're thinking of lots that are small, houses that are smaller, clustered together. Not a lot of yard maintenance or things of that nature, and put it and construct a product that's probably in the ballpark for folks that want to afford something at the lake and aren't on the lake or on the golf course. So Daniel mentioned our deviations from Bonner County Code, and I listed the same ones here. We talked a little bit about our multifamily unit being 3 foot 4 inches off of the proposed property line, and this is 3 foot 4 inches from the porch roof overhang to the property line. And I brought some pictures of the existing building today to kind of see what the architecture looks like and what those what that setback is to. And the second one was the sign standard. This sign, where it's located here, we have looked at the highway widening requirements, and we've designed in right turn lane, center turn bay, and kind of laid out what the highway is going to look like after this project is constructed. From this sign to the edge of the pavement to the highway will be 28 feet when we're done. And then on our access entrance road into the subdivision, from the sign to that access road will be 20 feet to the edge of the travel way. The last deviation that I wanted to go over here was one that Daniel talked about too, and that's the building, maximum building width. And so what I have here is a couple pictures of this. It would be effectively the back side of the building. And those porch overhangs are provided at each unit as kind of a back porch for the residents. And so from that overhang to the property line is where we encroach on that 5-foot setback. The proposal is to build a solid wood fence right along the property line to provide screening and privacy both ways at that location. The architecture of the buildings has been designed to not make them look like one big solid building. So we have different siding, we have different roof pitches, we have different projections, and I was trying to just provide some pictures here so that you can kind of see what's been built and what's proposed to be built, because we're thinking really about doing the exact same thing again. This picture is the best one I had from the front. So kind of ignore the temporary housing on the left-hand side of that, but you can get the idea that there is some difference in architecture, difference in projection there to kind of break up that building. Although it's 174 feet long, doesn't necessarily feel like a big institutional building sitting on the side of a parking lot. So with that, questions?
No, there were questions that came up when I was reading the application, but then I noticed through emails and various things that you guys had addressed them, like the water system issue. You've addressed that. That was one of the big ones, but no, actually, you did a very thorough job. And then with Daniel's report, it actually answered all my questions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay. So at this time, oh, go ahead, Daniel. Sorry.
I know there's not much rebuttal because there was any public comment. I think it's noteworthy that there's 3 different site plans in there. That if you choose to approve this project this afternoon, that all 3 of those need to be signed because each one of those has additional information on there.
Okay.
So not everything's encompassed on one site plan, because it would probably just clutter it up.
So is that in the language? I mean, is there something that I have to change in the language at all?
No, we just.
No, just to make you aware that
Okay.
you'll be signing 3 documents if you choose to move forward.
Yeah, typically there's one site plan, but given the complexity around this with like landscaping requirements and whatnot, that it was best served to show the different phases of the
Yeah.
different site plans. So
Okay, good.
there's a condition of approval on most of the CUPs that are built in accordance with the site plan. So to show all those, it's shown on 3 different documents.
Okay, cool. Okay, thanks. Okay, so at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and read the rules of testimony unless there's absolutely no one that wants to comment. Nobody? Can I skip?
Free online, but I only see one.
It doesn't hurt to read them.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read them just in case somebody changes their mind. If you wish to testify, you will need to please state your name for the record. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per person. You may give your 3 minutes to another person, so they have up to 6 minutes to speak. No one will be allowed more than 6 minutes. Public comments are limited to the specifics of this application. If you agree with another speaker, please just acknowledge agreement. No need to repeat the information again. Any personal or derogatory comments about another person or the position will not be allowed. Clapping, cheering, or booing will not be allowed either. So is there any written test or written statement that anyone would like to enter into the record at this time? Is there any supporting testimony that anyone would like to give in person or online?
Nobody online with their hand raised.
Okay, neutral testimony to be given in person or online? Opposing testimony to be given in person or online? Okay. Anyone in the audience who did not sign up to speak that would like to enter any comments into the record? Okay, so I guess there's no reason for the applicant to rebut anything. All right, so I'm going to close this hearing to public testimony. And I'm going to deliberate for a minute. So Jake, the setbacks, they're all included in, there doesn't have to be any additional language for that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. All right.
About A through J. We're going through on the conditions.
Oh, okay. So we do. Yeah, you could add a finding of fact during the deliberation that they've applied for, or they've requested a number of deviations as presented. And then we can add that as a finding.
Okay.
There's also condition A3, this is all county setback shall be met. As
That's
indicated,
why I was asking that
Yeah,
one right there.
as indicated on the approved site plan. So if you want to really make sure we cover our bases, you could say, you could just add a finding number 8, you know, the deviations have been requested and just request staff add that to the decision letter. But those deviations have been accepted and are included in the approved letter.
Okay.
And that would really make sure that in, 20 years when we're all gone, that you'd be surprised. We look at stuff even from like 10 years ago. It's like, well, what exactly was approved? And we have to dive into, at least now we have everything recorded, but it's nice to have it written clearly for future generations.
So I asked the staff to include that how?
Just during your deliberation,
So I could say,
just
my
say-
finding number 8 is that there were deviations that have been included in the proposal and that I asked the staff to
include those as a finding.
include those as a finding. Okay.
If there are any of those that you're against or whatnot, just let us know. And
Okay.
we can remove those from the finding.
Okay,
I
cool.
think that works there now.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Makes it super.
Yeah,
Just
that
wanted to be
was
able
the
to
one
cover that,
question.
those deviations.
So that comes right out of state code. If you look at, I was pulling this up just because it's not deviations requested in conditional use permits isn't part of our Title 12 code.
Okay.
If you look in 67, 65, 12, under point E, it talks about that. F. In addition to other processes permitted in this chapter, exceptions or waivers of standards other than use. So you can't add a use that's not already covered in Title 12. So
Okay.
you can't grant something that's not permitted. But standards may be waived or exceptions may be granted. So
Okay.
because it's in state code, we can apply it to ours without having it in our code. So our code can't supersede, can't make it less, let's see. We can't override state code with our, we can put more stringent, but we haven't. So state code in this case prevails. And that's where these exceptions or requests can come from.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you. Alright. Okay, so I approve this project file MOD 0005 5-22 to add additional multifamily dwelling units, finding that it is in accord with the general and specific objectives of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan and Bonner County Revised Code as enumerated in the following conclusions of law, and based upon the evidence submitted up to the time the staff report was prepared and testimony was received at this hearing. I further adopt the findings of fact, adding finding number 8, that there are deviations that have been included in this proposal, and I asked the staff to include those as a finding. And the conclusions of law as set forth in the staff report. Boy, did I buggle that up. Okay. And direct planning staff to draft written findings, including the new finding number 8, and conclusions to reflect this decision and transmit to all interested parties the action that could be taken to obtain the conditional use permit is to complete the conditions of approval as adopted. This action does not result in a taking of private property. Okay, so then at this time, I close file MOD 0005-22. And we will move on to file MOD 0006-22 modification. The applicants are requesting a modification to CM 605-98 to include additional structures and future additions. The site is 13.9 acres. The property is zoned rural 5. The project is located off Chevy Street in section 15, township 56 north, range 2 west, Boise Meridian. And I have no conflict of interest with this project. I turn it over to Daniel.
Thank you, hearing examiner Daniel Britt, planning staff for the record. We're here to discuss modification MOD 006-22. These are the standards for which this modification was reviewed against. The applicant is requesting a modification of the conditional use permit CM 605-98 to expand current facilities and to expand existing structures to add future structures on the property. This is a platted parcel that's approximately 13.9 acres. It's zoned rural 5 and the land use designation for it is rural residential. Clearly, it is not access off of Highway 57. It is off Chevy Street. That is my mistake. So looking at the site, it does contain a small amount of map slopes. It does not contain any wetlands and it does not contain any waterfront. It is within special flood hazard zone X. It's currently served by an individual well, individual septic system. Fire protection is afforded through Selkirk Fire District. Power is provided by Northern Lights Incorporated and is within Lake Pondere School District number 84. So part of this proposal is to add an accessory structure to the property. That is a permitted use in the rural district. When they go for, anytime anybody wants to add additional structures onto a CUP, they have to come back for a modification. They just can't obtain a building location permit and put a structure on. So that's why we're here this afternoon, is to discuss those expansions and those future buildings. So it is a permitted use. They just need to modify the site plan to achieve that. So getting to the public use table, if you have a conditional use permit for a public utility facility, you have to meet note 3, 6, and 11. In addition to all the other design requirements found in the Bonner County Revised Code. Here, note 3 is saying that they have to have access by a recorded easement or a public right of way or a private road that's constructed to private road standards. Currently, Chevy Street is a 60-foot wide paved easement, so they're meeting that requirement. Note 6 addresses noise, light, glare, smoke, odor, dust, particular matter, vibration, hours of operation for that zoning district. If this proposal is able to meet those requirements, as they set forth with their modification, they're going to install lighting that shines down. It's going to be a covered storage with a concrete slab for their storage yard. Future additions to the project itself will not really affect anything other than noise construction during construction. Note 11 for this project addresses lot coverage that it can't exceed 35%. Based on the numbers they submitted to us, they're covering approximately 32% lot coverage. So they're within that or below that 35%. That is the maximum. These are the following agencies that were routed for comment. Iowa Department of Transportation, DEQ, submitted comments and recommendations. No other agencies replied. No public comments were made for this modification. The findings of facts haven't changed, nor have the conclusions lost since the time the staff report was prepared. There's been a small change to the site plan. It's worth noting. The parking area, there was a comment submitted by Panhandle Health District that the parking that was originally proposed was over their current drain field and their future drain fields. They've corrected that action by moving the parking lot to this area. The original site plan that's in your folder this afternoon shows that the parking area would have been approximately right here. So they made that modification to the site plan. We should have that, the new site plan in your binder this afternoon. But short of that, they're meeting all the standards of the code. So it's consistent. Happy to take any questions.
No, that was the one, but I did find, I think in an email or something I saw that they had changed it. So
Okay.
great. Okay. All right, so at this time, if the applicant wants to make a presentation, since that they state their name into the microphone, please.
Thank you. Corey Trapp, LTA Architects. I also have Kristen Becky with Northern Lights here with me today. It's really pretty simple. I mean, working with the staff, they've been really helpful in helping us work through this and figure out that we needed to look out into the future beyond just the small addition that we wanted to make with this covered roof here. The future plan is to actually expand this covered roof area. It's for storage materials. They want to keep them out of the sun. It also keeps the snow off of them. So in case of emergencies, they can get to it quicker and get it out and take care of things better. This addition here is something that we proposed to do. These two additions, I think, were actually in the original conditioners permit. And then if we did add on to this, I think we're over 10 spaces additional right now. But if we did all the additions in the future, we need more parking. So we addressed that in this conditioners permit. Just trying to think down the road and take care of things in the future. So we don't have to necessarily come to you again. So I think that's pretty much it. I think it's pretty straightforward. If you have any other questions.
I don't. Thank you.
You can leave us a good review on Google.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, do we have, so I have read the rules of testimony. Do we have anyone new online?
No.
No. So do we have anyone that wishes to submit a written statement to be entered into the record at this time? Okay, or any supporting public testimony in person or online?
Nobody online.
Nobody online.
There's one.
Or there's one. Nobody with their hand raised.
Okay, neutral testimony in person or that one person online? Nope. Any opposing testimony in person or online? Okay, so then we don't need the applicant to rebut anything, so that's great. Okay, so then I'm going to close the hearing to public testimony. Look at my notes.
Jackie, you do have a copy of the site plan, correct?
The what?
In the site plan.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
I
just
saw
so
that.
we can vote.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not used to having a mouse. I keep using the little mouse. Okay, I approve this project file MOD 000. I'm going to start over. I approve this project file MOD 0006-22, requesting a modification of a conditional use permit CM 605-98. Previously approved for a public utility facility to now include new structures, future additions, and additional parking spaces. Finding that it is in accord with the general and specific objectives of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan and Bonner County Revised Code as enumerated in the following conclusions of law. And based upon the evidence submitted up to the time the staff report was prepared and testimony received at this hearing, I further adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law as set forth in the staff report and directs planning staff to draft written findings and conclusions to reflect this decision and transmit to all interested parties. The action that could be taken to obtain the conditional use permit is to complete the conditions of approval as adopted. This action does not result in a taking of private property. So at this time, I close file MOD 0006-22. Okay, So are there any schedule reminders, updates, announcements?
We have, hearings, there's the next thing.
March first.
Okay, you have items on that agenda.
Yeah, March first and March.
Okay.
So,
Couple of things. So we hired one other planner recently.
Oh, good.
So you'll see in the Alex, he's a San coordinator. Won the race here, went got a master's degree in business schools. Married and came back, so
nice.
recently returned home, and so we're really happy to have him. He's got some kind of fun regional experience. Yeah, policy. Yeah, yeah, he's a good addition.
Oh, good.
A week and a half, so he's almost. Hopefully you'll see him at hearings in the next month or two.
Oh, nice.
We're gonna start looking at some, probably some variance files and maybe some.
What's your son's name? Sounds fun. I'll have to ask my kids.
Yeah.
Do you know how to do this?
20s.
Yeah, that'd be about when you kids are. Cool.
He went to school with Jesse's, she works with the commissioners.
Oh, nice.
Jesse's daughter. And then Rob was promoted to a planning and tech position, so he does administrative files. You won't see him, but we kind of shifted some of our workload and our org chart around a little bit, to kind of accommodate some of the changes. I don't have any other draft. Thank you. But I have a top tier out. That we're gonna affect your decisions. The goals, policies and objectives, you'll probably see new ones. And they are found on the comp plan page.
Okay.
So those were adopted by the board December 21st. So when you're looking at like in compliance with the plan, there have been a few components that have been updated. Okay, let me see this, and then I'll show you. Have you been on the new comp plan page?
It's been about a couple weeks.
Okay.
I've looked over there.
So I just want to show you. Like where to find information, so because it's kind of it's a moving target right now, right?
Yeah.
So this is the big comp plan page, this or this link up here, we'll get to that comp plan update. So we've combined what was the comp plan page versus what we were working on.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's really the wrong step. So this is the current agendas and like what they're working on, if you want to see what the planning commission is
Okay.
doing. This is the process they're following. This is a PDF, and then these are the versions. What you want to look for is current adopted update.
Okay.
So the current adopted update for the property rights is there. This is the goals, policies, and objectives. Recreation and community design have all been adopted. And we have hazardous areas, special areas that are going to go to the board on the 22nd of this month. So just kind of be aware it's whatever's in place at the time of the application is what we base the decisions on, and that's what our analysis is. So as these get changed, as you kind of see stuff coming in the summer, we pick up speed a little bit on a number of files. Some of this will change a little bit our analysis as new data is being pulled into the comp plan. So something to be aware of. There's about 4 components left the planning commission hasn't started working on yet. Well, they started working on, they don't have a draft to present to the board yet. So out of the 15, 16 components, we've got level 4. So they're kind of the home stretch, but there's some big ones that go with it. That's kind of some of the high level stuff. One other thing I wanted to kind of help you on the format of this meeting. So if we're going to add findings or add conditions, you can do that prior to making your motion.
Oh, good.
So you can say, okay, I'm going to add condition 8.4. It's going to say this. I'm going to add this finding to reflect that. And then when you're reading this, when you get to the point where it says, I further adopt the findings of fact and conclusions that are set forth in the staff report or as amended during this hearing. And that covers anything you stated in your information. You don't have to add it
In that.
specifically.
Good, okay, good.
So that's why we have it in parentheses or as amended during this hearing, and you can amend it prior.
Okay.
So. Yeah, I should have guided you a little bit on that.
Oh, no, it's okay. It popped up and then I forgot to write it down in my notes to ask you about it until I saw it again today.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's. I'll try to make sure that when there's a deviation request that we add it as a finding. But that's also, if you don't agree with it, then we want to make sure you strike that. So we're
Oh,
gonna strike
okay.
finding this because, I don't find that it's in accordance
Well,
with.
and that was the other thing I was gonna ask, because I agreed with everything, but I thought, well, what if there's one of these I don't?
Mhm.
So I can specifically,
Yep. Yeah, so you can
Target
say,
that
okay,
one.
they requested a setback deviation for this, and based on public testimony. My review of the documents and code, I don't agree with that deviation. And you can kind of state as to reasons why,
okay,
and then you strike that as one of the permissible deviations. So. We've had the zoning commission add a number of conditions to it. It's gonna be really important. We have some files that are more than likely to be controversial coming up in the next couple of months,
so
so
much fun.
kind of narrow it, there's some CUPs, so they'll come to you.
Okay.
And you might, if we get a full house and gets gray enough where you don't want to make that decision, you can make a recommendation.
Okay,
You don't even have to make that decision to make a recommendation in the meeting. You can just say, okay, I'm gonna take the next 5 days to deliberate on this, and a written decision will be made. That decision may be, a final decision on this stuff, or a decision on this approval or denial, or it might be a recommendation to the board.
yeah,
Board of County Commissioners or the zoning commission. Yeah, so, and you can do that in writing rather than in person.
Oh, good.
We have that latitude.
yeah, sometimes I forget that.
It's okay. And if you forget, you can always turn to staff and say, what can I do again? And we
Yeah,
can pull up chapter, we can pull up chapter 1 and 2, and we can look at it together and say, okay, this is your options you can exercise. So, last thing, I'll be out of town starting next week for about 2.5 weeks. So you won't see me probably until next year.
okay,
So Travis will be around, and then I think most members of staff will be around. Most people want to take vacations beginning of February, or end of February, so. Jenna's birthday is this month.
yeah, happy birthday, you guys. I'm so old, oh, my kids. Oh, growing up.
Anything else? You haven't had any technology problems accessing GDR stuff? or anything?
Not at all.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
That's all I got.
Cool. Okay. Alrighty then, so I don't have anything else to add, so, okay, so I'm going to adjourn this meeting until the